That's right. Donald Trump wants to sue California following their attempt to gerrymander in response to, of course, Texas gerrymandering. Have a listen.
You mentioned Gavin Newsom on crime.
Gavin Newsom, yes.
So he corrects the reporter and says, it's Gavin Newscum. Can you imagine that we've normalized this?
Is there a federal mechanism you're hoping to use to fight back against his redistricting constitutional amendment?
I think I'm going to be filing a lawsuit pretty soon, and I think we're going to be very successful in it. We're going to be filing it through the Department of Justice.
There it is. The Department of Justice is going to be filing a lawsuit against either California or Governor Gavin Newsom. This is, insane. All because Governor Gavin Newsom said, we're going to gerrymander California just to neutralize or neuter the gerrymandering that's happening in Texas. What we've learned, though, is the gerrymandering in Texas could put up to 10 seats in play because you can't just steal votes from nowhere. They have to come from different communities. So if Texas wants this thing to go sideways, it's going to be up to the voters to decide how they want to vote. You can gerrymander the seats all you want, but you can't force people to vote a certain way. Tennessee representative here talks about the governor sending National Guard troops to curry favor with Donald Trump and calls it all political theater.
Does he presence in the Capitol make any difference in the Trump administration efforts, or do you think there's something else behind this decision to send him?
Yes, I absolutely believe that Trump is manufacturing a crisis to justify this crackdown. D.C. doesn't want this. Tennessee doesn't want this. So why are we even doing it? And here's the bigger picture. Tennesseans are paying the price for politicians who would rather posture for this administration than prepare for the next tornado here at home.
So, it's just wild to me, living in Tennessee now. It's a pretty deep red state. There's blue pockets, but it's pretty wild to me that a state just like Texas, it's like a lot of times Republicans pride themselves on First Amendment rights, Second Amendment. You can't pry my gun from my cold dead hands. You hear all that all the time. And yet now we've got a billionaire from Queens, New York City, telling you he needs some troops to go into the streets. And then they're sending them from these red states. And then now we've got pretty much the majority of ICE people that are joining ICE for these massive $50,000, $100,000 signing bonuses. They're now in the street saying the liberals started this. So it's a culture war that's now being armed by a masked police state. This is everything everyone was afraid about. And it's just happening. And I guess half the country is just okay with it. I guess. I don't know. I love to see when Republicans that are like, hey, we're here for small business, not for this, stand up and fight for the Constitution that our fathers died for. My dad died fighting for this country. And you'd think he would be rolling in his grave to see what it's become. But honestly, I don't know. Where are my veterans at? I'd love to hear more about what you think about having, the troops in the streets and all of this stuff going on here. The redistricting, taking votes away from people. It's pretty wild. So here we have in a town hall someone talking to Representative Mark Alford. This is in Missouri, a deep red state, talking about Medicare and the abuses that have happened as the president has now pardoned someone that defrauded the Medicaid system for $1.3 billion.
Couple of comments which you don't have to respond to, but I'm going to. You talked about abuses in the Medicare and Medicaid system. I found it interesting that the president pardoned someone who defrauded the Medicaid system for about $1.3 billion. I find that curious.
And again, none of this gets addressed, right? Yeah. And again, just like the big beautiful bill that was just passed is taking money out of different programs, some of which are funding farms, others that are funding fire stations. And what we're realizing is the money is not going into our bank accounts. The money's going to tax cuts for the ultra wealthy. That's just what it is. So the second time this year this has happened, I want to address something. I was called the second time by a lovely family member. I was told that my politics are far left. And I just wanted to remind people what far left is versus my politics, which is progressive. The core idea, and again, this is a ChatGPT breakdown, the core idea of a progressive ideology is reform the system to make it more fair, inclusive, and sustainable. So on the economy, higher taxes on the wealthy. That's really it. Higher taxes on the wealthy. Obviously, with those higher taxes, you want to pay for social programs like Medicare for all. That shouldn't be far left. Far left in a lot of cases is where they want to defund, really just like wipe out the whole economic system, defund the police, in some cases defund the banks, or, have government controlled things in a much more communist level. That would be far left. The progressive left actually is something, when you talk to people, many people on the right say they'd be okay with. They just don't think it can work. I'm talking to family members and they say, well, the VA program, that's like universal health care for veterans and it's broken, therefore universal health care can't work. Not addressing the problem as to why it's broken, because it's underfunded. And the way to fund all these programs is not just have health care for veterans, health care for senators, health care for old people. It's to have healthcare for everybody. An open door system that says if you're in this country and get sick, we'll take care of you. All of our tax dollars will pay for it, and the world in our country will be a better place. Other countries have figured this out. So I'm just a little frustrated. God bless my lovely family. Shout out to the people I'm talking to directly who I just send this link to. But I'm frustrated that I'm like, oh, that's Dave. He's far left. For fuck's sake, it's far left. This is popular. This is what people want. And you may be divided in the culture war issues to think that just because they want to run trans debates and have conversations about trans issues 24/7, that most people don't agree on the core issues, which is there's a bunch of billionaires, more than there's ever been, that aren't paying their fair share. Late stage capitalism means the biggest, strongest companies have taken the most resources and they're not even paying people a livable wage. Moms are worried about how quickly they can pump breast milk and store it so that they can go back to work because they don't have paid family leave. And then kids have attachment issues because they're not getting hugged enough by their mothers. Then they got to become podcasters, So the system's really messed up. But we have to educate each other on what terms mean, because if someone, and I asked my relative, I said, just explain to me what you mean when you call me far left, like which policies. And if someone says, well, universal health care, I just argue that is a very, very, very centrist policy in most of the first world. Calling someone far left is a way to minimize whatever points they have, which is we need to do a better job providing for the people here in this country with our tax dollars and tax the ultra wealthy, get rid of insurance companies that are stealing billions of dollars out of our pockets and all of that. That's all it is. It's not far left. And just a thought I wanted to share with people because we'll have to continue to educate. And finally, our last video of the day, could President Trump's face be added to Mount Rushmore?
Untouched for more than 80 years, there is now an effort by some supporters of Donald Trump to add his face to the monument. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has a bill in Congress that would add Trump to Mount Rushmore.
Hey, Anna, why don't you work on a health care plan before you work on carving the jaw into the rocks of a mountain range that was stolen from the natives? All right, just a thought. Very far left of me to say, isn't it? Ooh, Dave wants you to get your moles checked out. Ooh, he's falling off the wagon. The fuck out of here. That's it for us. We'll be back in the morning as we are twice a day, every day. I'm Dave. This is The Rush.